My association with the art world began very early. In effect, I grew up in the art world because we had uh, relatives who were involved with various of the arts, with music, with filmmaking, and also friends who were involved with literature and with the visual arts. So I began to write art criticism when I was in college, when I was about 19 years old, because a dear friend, Shanta Gokhale, had just taken over as editor of the arts editor of the Times of India. And I wrote a piece on a Vivan Sundaram exhibition and gave it to her, um, wondering if she'd be at all interested. And she loved it and eventually asked me if I'd stay on and be the art critic. Shanta was an amazing arts editor because she really trusted a whole new set of young people to take on this great responsibility of criticism. And we were quite a phalanx of young Turks. So that for me was the beginning, 1988. The Bombay art scene was, in the first place, much more plural in the way that it was connected to the other arts. So conversations in the art world were not confined only to the production of the visual arts. You would meet architects, you would meet musicians, you would meet filmmakers, you would meet academics, activists. The nature of that transdisciplinary conversation in Bombay was really very, very special. I'm thinking here of the late 1980s and the early 1990s. Today it seems to me that the art world is much more narrowly professional. It's achieved a great deal in terms of the gallery system, but I think it may have lost this sense of cross-fertilization across the arts. My connection with Cymroza would actually have begun with my guru, Nissim Ezekiel, the poet and art critic. That's the other part of my life as a poet and as a literary writer. So it was Nissim who suggested that I should take an active interest in what happened at Cymroza. And actually, I think I went with him to an opening at some point. This was the late 1980s, even before I'd begun to write. And I'm really having to return many decades to think about the pattern of events. And Nissim, of course, had played a considerable role in the early life of Cymroza. He'd been a fellow traveler with Firoza, he'd been a kind of guardian spirit, he had taken part in many of the events which we now see from the archives to have been so vibrant in the 70s at Cymroza. And what attracted me to this gallery was the fact that it was not narrowly concerned only with the commercial activity of the art world. It was also a cultural forum, it was a platform for various arts. There would be lectures, there would be play readings, and even openings would be very, very generative occasions. You could actually have marvelous conversations and go home inspired and renewed. So that was, to me, one of the key and pivotal experiences of that kind of art world. So Cymroza, Pandol, and Kemold, of course, were the three, and the Taj Art Gallery. These were among the four pivotal points of the Bombay art world in the late 1980s and early 1990s. It was somehow a simpler world, but it was also the kind of world where you could make genuine discoveries by yourself. You would actually be, in some sense, you would go through a rigorous and informal but a rigorous education in the arts.